Hi, and welcome to Shanghai Eye. I'm Timothy Pope.
Hello there, I'm Chen Xuan, and this is my colleague Sun Siqi.
Hi.
Well, Monday through Friday on Dragon TV, we bring you stories to explore and decode China, and we'll focus a lot here on Shanghai. While China has introduced a series of policies to develop a childbirth-friendly society, they include support and subsidies for childbirth, childcare, education, housing for couples with children, and policies that regulate employers so more parents can go back to work and more parents-to-be feel free to have kids. The country had 9.6 million newborns in 2023. That number was a little over a half of 2016's 17.8 million. And here my colleague Sun Siqi has looked into that topic. It's good to have you with us, Siqi.
Thank you so much, Chen Chen. Thank you for having me. So recently, you hear all over the media about support and subsidies coming out in multiple provinces around childbirth and childcare that range somewhere from a couple of thousand kwai to more than 100,000 kwai for one kid. But what we do notice is that over the past 2 decades, the desire to have babies in China have consistently come down. I have some data from a survey in 2021 in Shanghai. It basically found that nearly half of respondents wanted to have only one child. About 36% wanted to have 2, and only 3% prefer to have 3 babies or more. On the other side, 11% said they didn't want to have a baby at all.
Right, so why do people want fewer kids? Now let's take a look.
只要你自己有一口饭吃，肯定是能给他带大的。但是就是怎么样成为一个相对来说优秀的一个人。
其实是一个人的这种生活，但是如果说有一个小朋友的出现，那你肯定是要对他负责任的。
觉得比想象的要吃力很多。
我觉得可能是好了伤疤忘了疼，还是第一个孩子太天使了，
然后又觉得自己可以，所以就再来一个2胎。
从怀孕到生完他到上幼儿园，大概中间有4年就是没有工作的，终于熬出来要上班了，所以就没有想过再要的。
每一个阶段都有不同的，大部分的精力还是会牵扯，尤其是对于上班的女性来说，
最大的困难就是因为小孩没人带。
Chinese parents nowadays have largely said goodbye to old ways of rearing kids that were once typical in their grandparents' generation. In past generations, there was a saying, "A baby grows even in the wind," which reflects a mindset that a kid grows even if you don't provide much for them. In a family with 3 to 5 kids and 2 working parents back in the day when China's GDP per capita was 300 kwai, there wasn't much to provide anyway. But now young adults in a modern world, many who grew up as an only child themselves, hope to practice responsible parenting for every child they might have, giving these kids the same level of attention as they received. On the social media app Xiaohongshu, readers jeer at posts about impatience towards little kids and incompetence in providing a good living for them. People write comments like, "If you can't provide for the baby, then don't have a baby." Under modern living stresses in a city like Shanghai, hopes to provide the best childcare mean you either have one at-home parent or pay somewhere around 10,000 kwai a month for a caretaker, or have one or more grandparents take care of the child and possibly encounter daily family tension over how to raise the child. These are real costs, both financial and psychological. Having more children means these costs increase exponentially. Thus, having as few children as they feel ready to raise helps make sure the caretakers are responsible, the parents can stay patient, and can offer sufficient love and attention for each kid.
And Chen Xuan also noticed some very popular quotes on social media that have been circulating all over the internet. And they basically agreed that young people of this generation, they're not being less responsible by not being a parent. They're actually being more responsible by being more considerate about having a kid, because they feel like they have to take more into consideration. They feel like they have to assess where they are in their career and life, and they want to make sure that they can be fully ready to prepare for the baby until the kid at least goes to college.
Yeah. But I mean, no one can be ready to be a parent, right? But young adults around the country, they want to prepare ready as much as they can, or just never do it. So do you think this is a phenomenon just here in China, or is actually everywhere in the world?
It's really a universal issue as societies come to a certain level. I noticed that in some of China's neighboring countries that are deeper into the same problem, benefits are already being provided, while in some other countries, childcare costs are still very, very high. Take a look at what I found.
A new policy in South Korea provides the family of a single child born in 2024 and after a total of $22,100 in cash over the course of 8 years. In the United States, Joe Biden said in his mumbling, terrible debate with Donald Trump that he wanted to lower daycare expenses so more parents can go back to work. In a state like California or Massachusetts, infant care for one child can take up to a quarter of an average family's income. An average family with 2 children would spend 40% of its income on childcare. A minimum wage worker in these 2 states would need to work full-time for 2/3 of a year just to pay for childcare for one infant. A low birth rate is an across-the-board problem in developed countries. To pay for future pension accounts, governments have to pay up front for people to want to have babies now, which requires massive amounts of cash today.
Well, so it seems China is not the only country dealing with that headache. But what do you think are the differences between China and other countries?
Well, I would say if you consider what is unique about China, that would be the widespread conception/misconception that Chinese people all grow up to be straight-A students, right? I mean, I'm a parent myself, and I'm in multiple WeChat groups with parents with kids around the same age, and they're daily stressed about almost everything. They're stressed out about the poop, about potty training, about language development, about the daily appetite, about the growth curve, and then the kids have not even started preschool. I think in the Chinese mindset, the attention on better education and growth just turns the sense of responsibility of being a parent into a huge mental storm for mothers and the entire family. I think being in Shanghai, some of the infrastructure and support is here, but being a mom, I feel like I need daily tutoring and mentoring on how to calm down.
Speaking of calm down, a friend sent me this video. Is that you, Siqi?
My daughter, she doesn't know her name. She's not potty trained. She wants me to hold her to sleep. Being mom is to be in this nursery for God knows how much time. The young lady is still trying to sleep. It is 1 a.m.
There isn't one day when you don't feel like you're on the verge of a nervous breakdown or physical collapse.
Yeah, that is totally me because, well, I feel like there isn't one day that I don't feel like I'm scrambling and coming with new tricks to deal with the baby. I mean, my daughter's 2 years old, but there hasn't yet been one day that I felt like I'm really good at what I do. I'm really confident about being a mom. I never felt this way.
Well, Siqi, hang in there. I think you've done a great job already. I know it's very hard, but you've mentioned the infrastructure is there. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I meant was that the public-run, affordable, and accessible daycare facilities are coming back to the communities again, because going back 10 years, any mom who survived till their kid is 3 years old would tell you how hard it was back then to get their kids into preschool or nursery. Take a look at what I found.
After 1949, with China's abundance of state-owned enterprises and production facilities, childcare was both free and convenient. The government wanted as many women to join the workforce as possible, which was part of the Women's Liberation Campaign. So women, bring your baby to work. There were breaks when you could go to the factory's nursery and breastfeed your baby. Busy? Other breastfeeding moms took turns to nurse the same group of kids. Kind of unsanitary. That was how baby care worked back then. With reform and opening up in a fast-rising private sector, swarms of state-owned facilities changed and no longer provided daycare. With shrinking government funding since the early 1990s, state-owned community nurseries also became a thing of the past. With 400 million babies born in China between 1990 and 2016, prices at private nurseries in big cities like Shanghai eventually soared to as much as 10,000 kwai a month due to demand. By 2015, less than 1% of babies in Shanghai were able to get into a freestanding daycare facility. Around the same time in France, more than half of kids younger than 3 went to daycare. Then the Chinese government realized this was a huge problem, and mostly for moms who wish to go to work. In the recent decade, with both declining births and growing government support, public and affordable daycare facilities popped up in communities again. Prices at some private nurseries dropped to around 3,000 a month. Kids can be enrolled starting at the age of 1 or a little older. Hourly care facilities have been set up in communities that provide 12 free 2-hour sessions every year and then charge somewhere between 60 to 100 kwai for future sessions.
I see. So society-wise, you think facilities are more available now.
Right.
So if we put nursery aside, were you consider to have a second child?
Would I consider having a second child? I thought it was completely self-evident, but Shen, you can't really put nursery aside at all, because I feel like it's a circular issue. Because if you can't have affordable and accessible nursery that maybe even babies younger than 1 can go, then you can't have women that can feel free to go back to work. if you can't have women that can feel free to go back to work, then you can't have employers that can feel free to hire more women of childbearing age. And if you don't have that, you can have more women that can feel free to have more babies. So the circle really starts with having affordable, accessible, and reliable daycare services.
Like in the first place.
Exactly, that wherever you have kids that are very close to where you live. But it's really funny you just asked that, but because, I mean, your daughter is 11 years old. What stops you from having another kid?
Well, that comes back to me. Well, I did think about having a second child so that the siblings can keep each other company. But after I had Emily, I realized the time and energy I have to spend on a demanding child is just overwhelming. And because raising a kid is so much more than just feeding her well. And it's a learning curve for me as well. So that education can be very challenging. And I don't mean just schools. I meant for me how to get along with another human being who's almost 30 years older than me 24/7. That's just hard enough. And parents have to deal with new issues every step of the way. Now that my daughter is 11, as you mentioned, she'll soon reach her teens. I've already rehearsed hundreds of different scenarios in my head, including her slamming the door in my face, refusing all types of communications, and getting boyfriends I don't know.
Okay.
Well, Emily, if you are watching, I am not saying that you are going to do all that, and mommy loves you very much no matter what. So, well, don't forget that we are also learning how to parent and how to deal with different problems as our children gets older and they reach different stages in their life.
Yeah, that is totally true.
Okay, well, thank you, Siqi, for offering us different pictures on this issue, and everyone should remember that having a child or multiple children is totally up to each family. There's no need to feel compelled to take one path just because that's what some other people around you do. And every family has their own joys and challenges. Being a parent is hard, but the amount of joy they bring is off the charts. Thank you again, Siqi.
Okay.
Time now for Shanghai A to Z. Today we've got some more tips if you're planning to get a temporary driving permit in China. In order to apply for one, you need to prepare your identity document, usually your passport, and your foreign driving license. Note that if the original driving license is not in Chinese, which in most cases it won't be, you will need to apply for a translation of the license into Chinese. You can apply for that service through translation agencies by email, or you can approach the Vehicle Management Office staff for help. And when you have the documents prepared, bring them to the Vehicle Management Office, where you'll then take a class on Chinese road traffic laws and regulations. After that, you'll receive the permit on site. Moving on now to today's Shanghai Eye Q&A section. Taking a trip usually means you're going to be carrying a considerable amount of luggage, so being able to store it all somewhere before you check in at your intended accommodation can be pretty helpful. Maybe that's why Kathy asks, where can I store my luggage while travelling in Shanghai? Well, the good news is that there are now 232 cultural tourist sites across Shanghai that offer luggage storage services. This service spans A-level scenic spots, art galleries, museums and public libraries. To use this service, you usually need to pay a deposit, often by scanning a QR code on the lockers. The deposit will then be returned to your payment account when you pick up your luggage, so you'll be able to free yourself from any bulky baggage to enjoy the sights. Tell us what you want to know in the comment section and we'll try to answer for you in the coming episodes. If you've got a question for us, you can find us on all of our socials.
We'd love to hear from you. You can find all our content online as well, and join us here on Dragon TV Monday to Friday.
Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.